next session, we have an important announcement by Mr.
I
Manish.
see you on Facebook all the time. Nita Ortega. And she used to tell me that she was so lonely out there.
Thanks, Pooja.
First started.
So the announcement was, morning we went through the felicitation round for all our old contributors. And we just landed up doing one mistake which was not intended. Somehow we could not collect the data for presence of Mr. Ashoka. Okay, so he is one of the key members, in the past who has supported BSpin in a long way. And I would request Mr. Ashoka to come over on the stage. And yeah, can we have a round of applause for him? May I request Madhu to come and present a token of appreciation to him. Can we have a round of In fact, I remember my association with the spin was through Ashoka. Ashoka introduced me to the spin core team, and that was long back. Yes. So if there is something which goes wrong through me, I know you whom you need to catch. Thanks.
We will now have a session on digitalization and IIoT by Mr. Chetan C. Gehalli, Head of Digitalization and Technology Solutions Segment, Siemens Corporate Technology. To chair this session, I would like to call upon stage Ms. Aarti Rao, Lead Process and Quality at RICO, who will introduce the speaker to all of us. Ms. Aarti comes with 25 years of experience in the industry in implementing quality systems and methodologies in manufacturing, banking, healthcare and retail intelligence domains. She has worked with organizations such as Motorola, HP, Mphasis, LG. She is now with RICO Innovations in driving their product and processes for the US and Japan markets by leading the process and quality group. She is a Six Sigma Black Belt, a Scale Agilist, a SAFe program consultant and an active coach for SAFe. She is passionate about BSpin and has been a core member since 1999 and has initiated and driven many benchmarking reports for BSpin. Over to you, Ms. Aarti.
Thanks, Pooja. So, friends, we have a very interesting topic. Digitalization and IIoT, making it real. Well, reality is talking about the 5 organs of action, right? Touch, feel, smell, see and hear. It's all that we experience. Digitalization is the use of digital technologies to change or transform information and business models. So we get value producing opportunities, and we have IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things, which is putting the hardware pieces together that works through the Internet of Things and enhances to provide a uniquely useful products to the industry. Now, having all of this put together is a wonderful session to listen to by Chetan. It's my privilege to introduce Chetan to you. Chetan C. Gehalli, he currently heads the Digitalization and Technology Solutions in Siemens Corporate, and he's involved in research and development in the area of digitalization, in development of MindSphere, which is a cloud-based open IoT operating system, and cloud native platform for industrial Internet of Things called Industry 4. He has also been responsible for creating value, profit attainment, strategic planning, and including workforce and process optimization in organizations at Cerner. To put it in a summary, he comes with over 15 years and more of experience wherein developing technology solutions in line with digitization is his great passion. be it native technologies, machine learning, advanced analytics, or augmented reality. We have Chetan C.K. Halli doing it. Apart from this, he's also a long distance runner, a mountain biker, and a coffee lover. That's Chetan C.K. Halli for us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for that nice introduction. As Mr. Prasad was saying, it actually feels nice listening to our own introduction, sitting there at times wondering if it's us. Thanks for that. So, the topic is a combination of two things, right? Digitalization, which actually Mr. Prasad covered. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, okay. So it's a combination of these two things. Mr. Prasad spoke about digitalization and what specifically Industry 4.0 means to various organizations, because obviously there's not one organization that is getting impacted, it is the entire gamut of things around a bunch of organizations that will be impacted. So it's a combination of these two, and also how real is it? Because these are mostly, and if you see this in the Gartner hype curve, they are always at the peak. And I've been looking at this or following this for almost like 3 years or so. It's just, basically riding there and then coming back or just dipping down. So just let's see how much of it is hype and what's happening in reality. How are we able to do it? What have we done so far? Okay. So again, this curve has been beaten to death many a time, so I will not do that again. But the point of putting it up here is that it has been riding that peak for almost like 3-4 years now. Like from 2013 it was there, it went down a bit, came back, and so on and so forth. So in summary, and there is also a very good way one of my previous CEOs explained this. This is like having a kid, right? So when the kid is born, we all feel, and this is relatively fresh for me, but some of you are more experienced, older kids, so you would know what I'm saying. So when the kid is born, it's like, like probably there is a genius born, right? So you feel every move, everything that the kid does is, I'm lucky, so my kid is the best kid, right? And then it keeps going, like when they walk a couple of steps, when they speak something, and then at some point they start mingling with other kids. And then you start realizing, and there is also a little bit of kind of disbelief that, because, it has picked up so much. And then you start, after all, it might not be the case, right? And then, of course, you just go through that trough of disillusionment, some of us, and some of us not. And then at some point you start realizing maybe it's not that bad, and then starts picking up. So, but this is for the majority of us. But then there are few people who actually continue. They are truly gifted, truly able to make a difference. Now, what I am not able to make out with this in the last 3-4 years is how much of it is hype, how much of it is reality, what is happening, okay? So let's look at this and let's see what we have found out as Siemens, okay? Certainly things are changing, there's no denying this fact, right? To give an example, decentralized power. Of course, we are in the area of power, industrial automation, and many other things. We used to be, like 2 years ago, having healthcare also as a part of our organization, but now we have carved it out. It's an independent legal entity called Siemens Healthcare, where we deal with a lot of medical devices and stuff like that. But in this, specifically, I'm restricted to the industrial house of Siemens. So 67% of the power generation in the next 10-15 years, by 2030 or so, even before that maybe, 67% of power will be decentralized. To give you an example, like a country like Germany, where there is a lot of development, on an average, in 10 years of lifetime of a person, they experience 2.4 power outages. Like, of course, it's it's mathematical, but then typically 2 times power outage. Now, why is it so stable? Because the grid is stable. The grid is stable because the power generation is very predictable. It comes from one source, mega power plants. That is where all the power comes from. Now, will this be the future? No. Germany is already experiencing this. Now, I think sometime 2 years ago, for the first time, power generated by the non-conventional sources was above, or was more than what was generated using conventional sources. So this, of course, is good, but then throws up a challenge. Now, it's not one source, but there are multiple sources. Where is the power coming from? Where is it going? Who is generating this power? How do we manage this fluctuation, the load? It is amazingly complex mathematical problem to solve. The other thing is also about the energy cost. The other thing is also, we look at buildings and we feel the construction cost is the biggest one. Actually, 80% of the cost that is incurred in the lifetime existence of a building is operational. So 80% of the cost is not construction, it's operational. Of that, 40% of the cost comes from power. How much do they consume? How do we handle this? Now again, buildings are becoming greener. It is not one piece that you have to deal with, but a combination of systems, right? The suburban passengers, for the first time in the history of mankind, people living in the cities will be more than people living in the rural areas. So this throws a huge set of challenges at us. How do we handle this, right? This is mostly a problem, or we can blame organizations like BSpin for this. We have come to expect 100% quality. It's a good thing, but it throws up its own set of challenges. Now, less quality is no longer acceptable. We don't actually, because the expectation level itself is there, right? So, and there are certain cases where 100% quality is given. This, again, you might have heard this before, and it's also becoming a big problem very much in the Western countries, not so much here, but then we will surely be there. So, now what is this? What happened? There are mega trends. There are mega trends that are impacting irrespective of the industry that we come from. Now, these are challenges which on their own cannot be solved using conventional methods, right? Or even if you try to solve the challenge in conventional methods, it will be a lot more time consuming. It doesn't move at the pace that we or the rest of the world is moving. So, what do we do? There are new business models. So there are a set of challenges, and then there are new business models which are evolving to tackle these challenges. There are some, obviously these are not, this is not the entire list of challenges, these are some of the challenges, but there are many more, and there are new business models which are evolving. Some of the very obvious ones, things like people were buying, this is too old maybe, but cassettes and DVDs, yes, we do remember, but that's not the case anymore. I don't, just a show of hands, how many of you bought a music CD or DVD in the last 3 years? Anybody? It's amazing, right? And we are not even talking to people who were born in 90s. Good disrespect there, but then You know, like that's a different crowd altogether. But even this is across. So that business is gone. It's dead. There is a new model. You know, like we are now streaming not just music but all sorts of media. I just cancelled my digital TV subscription last month because we get all of it on the streaming media. So there's Netflix, there's Amazon Prime and everything else, so you don't have to do anything. So that's a new business model, right? From manual control. Of course, you still see those controls in most of the buildings because these buildings were probably constructed much before the technology became prevalent. But what's happening, at least in the smart homes, is it has changed, right? Air conditioning and temperature control is not a big problem in countries like India, but wherever it is in the West, it has changed. Nest actually can predict what kind of temperature you would like to have in the setting, depending on the calendar day, your own setting, what time of the day, how many people are present in the building. It's damn smart. So it's not like 23.5 which your wife likes and 24.5 which you like. No, it's no longer that. It is totally intelligent. Now, I'm sure, you know, like, so there are consumer segments, then there are industry segments. So even in the industry segments, it's not that we are selling turbines. Now forget selling turbines, actually a real example from my own conversation with one of our customers, which is BIAL, the airport, where you least expect the emphasis on digitalization, right? Why on earth would airport think of digitalization? But if you are thinking, yes, that's a place, good, because that's where they are. And the problem statement earlier during our conversations with customers was, you know, like, I need 50 megawatts of power. Can you sell me a turbine, right? But the discussion in the airport was not that. The discussion in the airport was, I handle 32 million passengers every year and I'm growing at 25%. I have X number of dollars. I can invest it in bricks or bytes. Bricks is conventional. Go construct another terminal. You know how difficult or easy it is in Bangalore. Or bytes. That was the problem statement. And this is a problem statement that companies like Siemens are not used to. This is more of a KPMG kind of statement, right? Or a McKinsey type of statement. You know, like, I have this, what do I do? Now you go just figure out what needs to be done. So it is getting real. And I just brought up airport as an example, but it's not restricted to airport. Banks are doing it. All sectors of industry are doing it, and this is getting scaringly real. There are days where I say, oops, what if they sign a contract? Right? So, because you don't know, this is a path to discovery. Of course, you can give hundreds of examples of co-creation, but you know, like, how comfortable will we be to allow a cardiac surgeon to practice on us? Will we say, yeah, let's co-create? No, this is stuff that is real, right? Of course, the industry is headed there. We have to convince, we have to bring them on board, but that's a different challenge. But what I'm trying to explain here is, this is no longer stuff that we used to read in journals. This is not stuff that we used to see will come in. It's also kind of funny how growing up, I've always thought, 2020 would change everything. You might have seen from Chandrababu Naidu to everybody was like 2020, Vision 2020. Now 2020 is 2 years. So this is stuff that has to be delivered. So of course, like, we can go giving examples of the after examples in different sectors. Again, I didn't just pick Uber and Airbnb because these examples have been abused many a times. But still, I feel these are two sectors that actually did not innovate, did not actually adapt so fast. Sectors, hospitality, because like, obviously those of you sitting here who've been in this industry for so long, you've been traveling the world for so many years. I don't think hospitality has changed. It's the same Sheraton, it's the same Marriott, it's the same hotel, the same, even the thermostat is placed at the same location. Nothing changed. The same thing with private transport, right? It's the same, you watch Bollywood movies of 60s, you hail a taxi, get into the taxi, you go somewhere. Nothing had changed. So I think when industries like that are facing the heat and have started adapting, now these are industries which were always receptive to change, okay? Now what are they expecting? Actually, Mr. Prasad also was mentioning about customized production, right? So these were days of one size fits all. Actually, there are a few red cars there, but then still one size fits all. Like Ford revolutionized the assembly line, and then we started making whatever we wanted in hundreds and thousands, right? And what is happening today? This is actually the picture of a real car, 3D printed, and not like damn expensive that you and some of you surely will be able to afford. But it's not that expensive. It's less than maybe $50,000, right? But then that sounds like more of a Photoshop, right? So what I thought is let me bring some real world example. So this is real. This is real on multiple counts because one, it was made by Adidas using Siemens solutions. Two, I have personally seen this. Three, it's there on Google. It was handed over to Angela Merkel when she visited our Hanover fair. So these are customized shoes which are printed. So you can Google Adidas Speed Factory and learn more about this. So it is taking it to the next level. And again, I'll just lean back on what Mr. Prasad was saying. Like big industries, big factories set up in third world countries for the reason of cost. Now cost is going up there. How do we beat it? There is so much of logistics, there's so much of movement. Yes, big containers, but customers don't want that. Customers want something that is unique. So bring the factory to the customer. And that is getting scarily real. It is being done as we speak. And this was done in 2017. Centralized power generation, this I spoke about. Now from there to decentralized. And decentralized is becoming totally decentralized. Some of the requests that we are getting from our customers are like truly next gen requests. There was a request that came to us from a customer where they said the electric vehicle charging ecosystem needs to be built. For example, I take my electric car, I go to my friend's house, I plug it. Today it's fine. Yeah? Chai, that's about. Nobody will say, pay me for those 4 units of electricity that you consumed. But this will become real, and this is happening. And we, companies are requesting us to build something that can support this. This is pure energy trading, right? So, like you consume from my house, and then probably when there is a demand, when you connect it to the grid, you will also give it back. So, these are challenges that are one. Actually should excite the engineer in each one of you. Right? So these are challenges that would probably be, people will be drooling on that. Right? This is a great opportunity to get into something and solve it, the first thing. The second thing, and this is again, this was mentioned during the keynote, right? This is a very sweet coincidence that we have so much of compute available. It is truly democratic. The compute today is truly democratic. You can get the same compute that Amazon has, that Flipkart has. You can sell Chakli in your house with the same compute. You have access. Whether you use it or not is different. Whether you have the money or not is different. Is that the business model? These are all questions that are different. But if you have, if you need, it is available. And how much time does it take for you to sign up on Amazon? It probably takes like 5 minutes, and you have the same compute that Amazon themselves have. How cool is that? Right? Never was the world such a flat playing ground. And why were we always looking at West? Because the technology development had happened much earlier there, right? So they had that expertise, they had the experience, so we were learning. But this is truly democratic, right? Artificial intelligence is as new to us as it is to somebody who is studying in MIT. It's accessible. Now, whether we are good or not, that's a different thing. We will discuss that later. But that is the point. From fixed interval maintenance to real time. I will also touch upon this topic later in the next couple of slides. I have a real world example as to how we do it and what we do. But this is how the new business models, new challenges are being thrown at us. Now coming to the crux of this talk. Yes, this is all fine. This is something that I knew. Probably you threw some new statistics at me, but that's all. That was all there. Now, how do I could be anybody. I could be a small scale industry. I could be a competitor in the automotive sector where they have access to the same type of technology. I could be anyone. Could be any retail or a startup who thinks they can revolutionize the retail industry. So, how do they remain competitive? How do they thrive in this new digital world? Okay. Now, obviously, I'm not the guru of this, and I don't have a formula. If I had, I would not be here. I would be selling the formula. But this is something that we have experienced in the last couple of years, and we have seen that this makes sense. Now, is this absolute truth? No, this is not, obviously. Right? In the digital world, there is no thing called absolute truth. This is all evolving. It will change and will keep changing in ways we cannot imagine. With that disclaimer, this is what I think the companies should do, or the players should do in order to remain competitive in this digital world. Now, again, digitalization, and this I experienced when I tried to walk into a room of senior executives and tell them something about digitalization. And these are people who have, rolled up their sleeves, gotten their hands dirty. They have done it. There are questions they ask. What is digital? What do you mean digital? Were we not digital? We were always digital. And this is a Siemens example. This is 1977. There was a sensor connected. 1977 is almost like 10 years before even somebody thought of internet. How cool is that, right? So we did that, and there was temperature monitoring done. So what is digital? What has changed? Now, this is not digital. This is not what we are talking about. We are talking about how the entire industry is undergoing a change. Should not be viewed in isolation. To give you an example, retail, right? We all have heard of retail so many times, how cool they are, what they've been doing. Alibaba does something called single stay in China. So this started as some sort of, I don't want to call it vengeance, but those people who were singles, right? They wanted to celebrate this on Valentine's Day. This is like a very Chinese thing. Many of us have not even heard of it. You know how much Alibaba sells on this one day? They sell almost $25 billion worth of goods. Billion with a B. And how big is the Indian retail industry? Depending on who you ask, around 400 billion. So they sell 25 billion, which is what? 1/16, or whatever is the math. They sell so much in one single day. And the occasion is something that did not exist a few years ago. Now, how do you do it? Right? So they use all sorts of technologies. They know your buying pattern. They suggest, they recommend. In fact, even before you check out, the algorithm can predict 85% certainty